Your new baby is here. At first she was sweet and slept well. Now she just cries and cries and cries. It feels like nothing helps her, and you're having a hard time coping too. Could this be colic? What are the common symptoms and what causes it? You're listening to Newbies.
He's gorgeous.
It's a girl.
Surprise! The whole family's here.
So when are you having the next one?
It's just Poop.
Ready for another?
Wow, you look really tired.
Ready to go back to work?
Yellow poop? Seriously?
Did you sterilize this?
Sex? Now? You've got to be joking.
You should sleep when the baby sleeps.
She doesn't look anything like you.
I thought you already had your baby.
I did.
Babies don't come with instructions, so there's Newbies, helping new moms and new babies through the first year. Welcome to Newbies. Newbies is your online, on-the-go support group guiding new mothers through their baby's first year. I'm your host, Kristen Stratton. I'm also a certified birth doula, postpartum doula, and owner of In-Due Season Doula Services. If you haven't already, be sure to visit our website at newmommymedia.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to our show through iTunes, so you'll automatically get new episodes when they're released. Sunny's here to tell us about other ways you can participate in our new show.
Okay, so we are recording our show a little bit differently. You guys may notice a little, I don't know, maybe difference in some of the audio and stuff. And so I wanted to kind of explain that a little bit and then tell you how that benefits you. So instead of recording in a studio type of environment, which is what we've done for the past few years, we are now all recording from our own home computers. So what does that mean for you guys? It means that it is now easier than ever to get involved with Newbies. And we specifically made this format change because we wanted it to be as easy as possible for parents to participate in our shows. So now all you need is your computer, and you need a good internet browser and a pretty good internet speed. And if you have those three things, then you're able to join our shows and to participate in these conversations. So the best way for you to get involved and let us know that you want to be involved with Newbies is to first go on our website at newmommymedia.com. And there are some banners or some information up there that you should notice right away that talks about how parents can get involved. If you click on one of those banners, that'll take you to an online form that you fill out really quickly. And it also has some other links on the page. For example, we have a closed Facebook group that you can join, and that's where we post all of our topics and our recording times for all of our shows. And so since it's a group, an email goes out every time we create a new event, a new recording, and you'll see all of the different topics and the times, and you can let us know if you want to participate. The reason we have you fill out an online form, though, is because sometimes we're looking for people with very specific experience. And in that form, you'll have an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about your family and your experience. And so that's a great way for us, for our producers, to get in contact with you when we're working on a show that we think you'd be a good fit for. So please head on over to our website. Let us know you want to participate. We would love to have you on the show.
So today on Newbies, we're going to be doing an app review. And today the app is called the Wonder Weeks. And it's a app that you can download on iTunes or Android in their marketplace. And it's basically for the first 20 months of your child's life. So you can look up when your baby's going to have some sort of what they call mental leap. So big developmental milestones in terms of when they start noticing things more, and they're just staring at the wall and you're like, what are they looking at? Or periods of fussiness where you're not quite sure, maybe what is wrong with my baby? And in reality, it's because they're just developing. Their brain's doing a lot of work. Maybe they're overstimulated because they have all the stuff that they're noticing. When they start making all those cute little grunts and noises, it'll explain when that typically starts happening. So anyway, if you go ahead and download this, I have a couple clients that use it, and it's really helpful to them because especially if you're breastfeeding, you're just wondering, okay, why is my baby constantly at the breast? I can't get a break. It's kind of sometimes reassuring to look at this app and go, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel. This is a typical milestone around 8 weeks. Okay, so I understand what my baby's doing. I understand why my baby wants to be with me at all times and just constantly nursing, or why my baby's just staring at the walls for, hours on end. So anyway, what do you think about this, Sunny?
So I had a chance to download this and just check it out initially. My kids are a little bit older than what this app, is really helpful for. But I was thinking back to, so I've got 4 kids and my youngest 2 are twins and they're about 2.5 years old. And I was thinking back to their birth and how they came out as 35 weekers. And so I always had a lot of questions about them developmentally, not only because they were 35 weekers, but because I had heard that twins develop a little bit differently and they may be a little bit behind because they're so concentrated on each other that they may, not be developing at the same rates as the other kids. And so I had just had a lot of different questions about it. And I wish something like this was available to be able to kind of clarify some stuff for me. One of the things I noticed right away is when I downloaded the app, it asked you to enter your kids' information and it doesn't go with their age. It actually asks for their due date. So after your babies, you're talking about babies that have already been born. And I questioned that at first. I'm like, why are you asking for a due date? But then it kind of explained that, that's what they're really measuring everything by. So it's not just because what babies are born at 40 weeks? There's a lot of babies that are not born at 40 weeks, right? Including my 35 weekers. And so
my 42 weekers.
They're 40. Your baby's made up for my babies.
Yeah.
I think it could have been really helpful for me and for other parents that you just question that. And I like the fact that it has some reminders on here that it can remind you when a quote unquote leap period is coming up. So you can kind of prepare yourself for it. Of course, not all babies are created equal, right? They're not all going to follow what the app says, but I still think it's helpful to kind of have a heads up as to, what to expect. And I really like push notifications because you're telling me something as opposed to me having to go out and find the information, which I would probably forget to do. So it's nice.
Exactly. I know. I wish I had this when, even my youngest is almost 3 and this didn't exist then. And I wish it had. So, and I agree with you. The push notifications, especially when you're, a new mom, are really helpful because you're too tired to even remember that you have the app.
Right.
So,
right. It's
so
true.
a little notification on your screen every morning is helpful.
Absolutely.
So this app is $1.99. And if you want more information about this app, you can go to our website at newmommymedia.com and we'll post it up there so you can take a look. Today on Newbies, we're discussing colic. What is it and what does it mean? And how can you help your baby feel better? Our expert today is Dr. Tara Zandvliet, who is board certified in 3 separate specialties: pediatrics, internal medicine, and integrative holistic medicine. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Z, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dr. Zandvliet, what is colic and what are the symptoms associated with it?
So colic is basically crying more than normal. So what's normal, right? Normal is about an hour and a half of crying a day for a new baby under about 4 or 5 months old. And colic is diagnosed as just excess crying. So about 3 hours a day or more. It's usually episodic, so it tends to come and go. It's pretty intense. If anyone has ever had a baby with colic, it is quite the intense experience. And it is for more than 3 days a week for 3 weeks or more. And the kid has to be otherwise healthy. And it starts around 2 weeks old. So it seems early, but it starts around 2 or 3 weeks old, and it can go all the way up to about 4 months. So it's basically just excess crying.
What causes colic?
So there's the $10 million question. So through the ages, colic has been thought to be many different causes. And I'll kind of go through them because as with almost everything in life, the answer is all of the above. Pick D whenever possible. Everyone thought it was gas. And that is still part of it, is when the kids swallow too much air when they're nursing or on the bottle, and it just doesn't get out. So they just can't burp well. They can't fart well, although most babies can do those beautifully. But that was the first initial kind of thought. Then we moved into thinking it was allergies to what's in, not an allergy so much as a reaction to what mom was eating. So if anyone's ever had a large quantity of broccoli and then nursed, the baby definitely has some different gut motility,
Absolutely.
shall we say. Yes. So what we eat as moms definitely affects the guts of our kids. And so again, in many cases, probably up to about 20% of colic, at least, I think it possibly is more, we have something mom is eating as the cause. We definitely know that smoking or nicotine patches or nicotine gum or vaping, any of that stuff with nicotine definitely causes colic. So that's one thing. Also caffeine. And then a big one is mom drinking any milk products or dairy. Occasionally it'll be a random thing like soy, or it'll be something like all of the nightshades, like green peppers and things like that. Or
the Ben and Jerry's.
Or the Ben and Jerry's. I'm telling you that dairy can really do you in. That's a big one. And that is actually still very worth looking into when your child has colic, because if you can eliminate colic, you're going to just have a much happier experience.
I've heard gluten too. What's your opinion on that one?
So gluten can be one of those things that in an individual mom-baby pairing can definitely cause a problem. Not in everyone. It's not like the gold star, woo, it's gluten. If it were, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd just say, well, don't eat gluten. So it is one of the ones. Yeah, the big five, there are more, I know, but the big five of allergies are usually soy, corn, dairy, nuts, and wheat, gluten. Those are the big five things that generally cause this problem.
And are there any things that can look like colic but are really another issue?
There are, but I'm going to get to them in a second. There are two other things recently that are really looking like a bigger cause of colic. One is neurologic. I mean, when we think about the brain, that's where all the nerves are, right? Well, the second place we have a huge number of nerves is in the intestines. So the stomach and the intestines, when the peristalsis, so the nerves creating the contractions that move the food all the way through, when they're not timed right, and these newborns, they're still getting everything right. They're still learning. The bodies are still learning, and they're immature. They're technically still in their fourth trimester of pregnancy, right? They're still sort of shouldn't be born yet, but they got too big. So neurologically, they might be just overstimulated, right? Especially that's maybe why it happens in the late afternoons. So many people say that if we can calm them down, give them less stimulation, it might work. I always think of it as if you go to the mall at Christmas time and the bells are ringing and all the kids are there screaming and there's lights everywhere. I mean, after a while you get a headache. It's just too much. I kind of think that like that you've got this newborn and there's stuff to learn everywhere. Their eyes are wide open. They're just sucking it in like a sponge, and pretty soon they go, okay, enough. But they're not quite sleepy enough to go to sleep. And then the last one is pretty recent stuff, the microbiome. So basically all those good bacteria in our gut. Babies aren't born with any. They suck it in from mom. And that's why we have a lot of lactobacillus in our vaginas, right? And if you don't give birth vaginally, then you can take care of that.
And we talked about that on another episode, on our first bath episode.
Yes, we did. And it works. It works beautifully. And so they get lactobacillus from us so they can digest the milk. And if you don't have enough, or it's a little slow in establishing a great population of that bacteria in your gut, they think it may actually cause some pain and problems so that the baby can't really digest the milk. And that would certainly explain why they would be crying. So those are the big causes.
And you were going to touch on some things that can look like colic, but really might be another cause. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so since colic is kind of the definition is just excess crying, most things that are colic will have, not most, a lot of things that are colic do actually have a cause, which is, for example, if the baby's reacting to something in the milk, so if mom is eating something that's coming through in the milk and they have a sensitivity to it, there's the cause, and then you just eliminate and you basically cure it. In terms of things anything that causes belly pain can look like colic. And the key, though, is usually those things don't last more than 3 weeks. Occasionally they do. So, for example, reflux, gastroesophageal reflux. So when that stomach acid just comes back up into their esophagus, there are happy spitters who just puke all the time in large amounts, and they're happy as a clam doing so. You don't have to worry about them. They are not, so much anyway, they're not in pain. They're not causing damage. But the ones who really have the acid come up, it hurts, so they cry. and it tends to be in the late afternoons as well. So gastroesophageal reflux disease is important to rule out, definitely. Milk allergy, cow's milk allergy. This is a true allergy, not a sensitivity to the cow's milk mom is eating. This is true milk allergy where they're actually allergic to mom's milk too. And that can be very dangerous because they start bleeding. So if you ever get, I mean, I know we're going to touch on that later with, when to go see the doctor. Well, if there's blood in your kid's stool, right, in their poopy diapers, yeah, you should be coming in. Because milk allergy, that's the number one cause of that. That's can cause colic too. Other things like anal fissures, things where they've got pain for some other reason. They've got a little diaper rash or they've got an anal fissure. One big one I saw once when I was in training was there was a kid who had on his little toes mom's hair was wrapped around his pinky toe. And he was screaming, just screaming. Nothing would calm him down. Mom's like, oh, it must be colic. And it turned out it was just really hurt. And so the kiddo was in his little footy sleepers and no one ever noticed until finally she changed his diaper. And she's like, why is his toe really purple? And she just got the hair off and all of a sudden he stopped. So that's another reason why we define colic as 3 weeks generally. So we know it's not something
those
temporary.
hair tourniquets are no joke. I have a brother. Yeah, I have
They
a
are
brother
no
that
joke.
is a nurse in the emergency room, and that actually is a really common thing that people come in for. And also moms with boys, make sure you check their penises because you don't want a hair wrapped around that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely.
So I have 3 children, 6, 4, and 2, 2.5. All 3 had colic for some period of time. My first 2, it wasn't terrible. Well, maybe in retrospect, I look back and it wasn't too terrible in comparison to colic with my third. But I think with my daughter, it was probably about, maybe 4 to 6 weeks that she, did the excess crying for hours on end and, eventually outgrew it and was fine. And then my second child, my first son, he probably was colic for about 2 to 4 months. Like I said, my mommy brain makes me forget things because that's how your body tries to get you pregnant again. It makes you forget. It makes you forget how hard things were.
Totally.
That's true.
But very vividly in my mind was with my third, and he actually was quote unquote colic. I don't know where the overlap was, but he screamed for 8 months. And I know that that's unusual. But when we went to the pediatrician, I said, he's still crying like 3 to 6 hours a day, 4 to 5 days out of the week. I did everything that Dr. Z talked about. I did the elimination diet because we were breastfeeding. I got rid of dairy, although that was really sad. I loved my Ben and Jerry's. But I even started eliminating gluten because I didn't know what else to do. I do think there was a reduction after we got rid of citrus actually was a trigger for him. I was really trying to eat healthy and I was eating a lot of oranges, and that was kind of a trigger. Dairy definitely was an issue, but even after doing that, he was still having a hard time. And then now in retrospect, he's almost 3 and he actually has sensory processing disorder. And I wonder, I'm like, now I wonder if that maybe was a contributing factor because I know 8 months is really long to be colic. So I just think that was kind of a unique experience on our part, but it definitely was trying. And we had a neighbor, we lived in a duplex because my husband's in the Marine Corps. We were in military housing at the time. And so we shared a wall on either side. And I remember one of my neighbors texting me, do you need help? Do you want me to come over? Because she could hear him screaming through the walls. So yeah, it was definitely one of our more challenging times as parents. When we come back, we will continue our discussion about possible remedies for colic, as well as information about developmental milestones and parenting styles, which may affect how our baby cries. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. We are talking with Dr. Tara Zandvliet about the mysterious colic and how to help our baby feel better. Dr. Z, what are some of the remedies for colic?
So if you want actual remedies, there are quite a few on the market as well as in your cabinet. Many of you have heard of gripe water. It works beautifully. It usually has fennel in it. Fennel oil is beautiful as well, calms everything down. It's, again, working on the neurologic side of colic and calms all the spasming intestines. If they have a lot of gas, which after crying for 3 to 6 hours, they will definitely have a lot of gas because they're swallowing air like crazy. The simethicone drops, they're over the counter, anti-gas drops, those work pretty decently as well. There is chamomile tea, which is very popular in Mexico. The té de manzanilla. Té de manzanilla, if you ever hear that, every grandma and great grandma around will tell you to use that. And it does work. It does work. Every pediatrician will tell you don't use it. And here's the reason. If you use more than about an ounce or two, then all of a sudden your child is not getting milk. And so they don't get their sodium and their potassium and all these, and that can be very dangerous. So most of us have seen a case where the child had such horrible colic that they were crying for 12 hours straight, and grandma just shoved like 8 ounces of chamomile at them, and they don't do well with that. So if you use chamomile tea, it's very, very helpful, but only about an ounce at a time for sure. Maybe 2 ounces in 24 hours would be max. The other big thing that works is, I don't know if you've ever read the book or seen anything about Happiest Baby on the Block. It's, again, focusing on the neurologic side of things. And that one, you can look it up and stuff, but it's basically focusing on the 5 S's, basically shushing your baby. Can I say every? I don't know. But anyway, most societies have some sort of shushy sound for their babies. Hush, little baby, don't say a word, So that's a hushy sound, some sort of a shushy sound. And you can get that with noisemakers. You can do it yourself. You can use it with ocean sounds. And if you're stuck somewhere, a vacuum cleaner just turned on in the corner works great. And you get a really clean section of carpet in the corner. The other thing is swaddling, if they are young enough to swaddle. Some of them are a little bit older. Another one is putting some pressure on that stomach to kind of encourage the farts. So holding them in your arms face down, kind of almost like a football thing, or way up high on your shoulder, where your shoulder is kind of on their belly a little bit. Make sure you hold on to their legs, obviously. Also, some sort of on their side, sleeping on their side. If you can get them on their side, that helps. And then swinging. Everyone knows with those swings, and some sort of sucking. So this is when they're on your boob all the time. And sometimes they get so much milk, they puke it back out, but that's okay. It's an automatic reject factor. It's okay. And sometimes pacifiers do work. I mean, they're not evil. They are sometimes very well used. So those are good ones. I'll give you a personal thing. Both my kids had some colic, my son worse. And he just wanted us to leave him the heck alone. And so he didn't want to be swaddled. He didn't want to be shushed. He didn't want to be swung or held. He got worse and worse and worse until one day I just was, I'm done, and I put him down on a blanket on the floor and I walked away to just get a moment, and he shut up, and he stayed shut up, and he just was staring at these shadows on the wall from the window. And it like zoned him out. And all of a sudden, he was just chill for a good half hour, 40 minutes, something like that. And then he cried a little and nursed, and then he was kind of a little back into his regular rhythm. So there are a lot of different things that you can use, but that does work a lot.
Yeah, you touched on a couple that we personally, we tried like everything. But what ended up bringing us some relief with our first 2 was a warm bath.
Oh yeah, that works.
Yeah, just giving them, I think just the soothing water. I would put a warm washcloth on their tummies so that they didn't get cold, and just keep pouring a cup of warm water on that washcloth. And that was helpful. Sometimes just going outside. I always tell people it's a change of scenery sometimes can just distract them enough where they just stop crying, and then it's also helpful for the parent's sanity. It is intense. Oh, yeah. It's not just like a, wimpy fussing cry. It is intense.
Oh, it's not fussing.
Yeah,
no.
It is intense, lung bursting crying. And then with my third, I was not as crunchy as I am now. But what I had, one of my friends who was a distributor for an essential oils company, and one of their blends was to help with digestive issues. So I diluted that in some coconut oil and I rubbed that on his tummy, and that actually helped. And this was like between the 7 and 8 month mark, where I was just like ready to commit myself to an institution because I just couldn't handle it anymore.
No, essential oils are great.
Yeah, no, I think that really helped him. I noticed a huge difference, and now I'm a believer. I'm convinced. But I do want to also say, because it is really intense and it is hard to sometimes, especially if you're the primary caretaker and maybe your partners at work, or you don't have a lot of family around. Like in our case, we didn't have a lot of family because we're military that was able to come, over at a moment's notice. We didn't have that. So like Dr. Z was saying, you reach your limit, you're like, oh, I'm done. You don't want to get to that point where you snap. And so if you feel like you're on the edge, you really can just put your baby down in a safe place on the floor. Is great because they're not going to fall. They're probably not rolling yet. Or if they are, they're not going to roll, in a dangerous place. And then just walk away. Give yourself 5 minutes, go in the bathroom, count to 10, go wash some dishes so that you know that they're nearby and safe. But just do something so you can just recollect yourself so that you don't get to the place where, you're just going to lose it, because it is very intense. Or call somebody and ask for help. I know that's hard for some of us to do, but we're not super mom. We don't have to be. And asking for help sometimes is the right thing to do.
There are a lot of grandma type neighbors that love to hold babies even when they're crying. So
yes,
take advantage of them. There are two other things I wanted to mention too. One is probiotics, lactobacillus. This is where they started noticing that probiotics helped with colic. And so then they started doing the investigations as to why. That's where that theory of the microbiome being part of this colic thing came from. So giving your child a little lactobacillus, they have, baby probiotics you can use with powders. But quite frankly, you can just get the lactobacillus from one of the stores, crush it up, wet your finger, stick it in the powder, and let them suck on it. And just one fingerful, basically, is about enough. And it works beautifully.
You know what? I also want to mention baby wearing. Baby wearing was also a survival technique for us because I had 2 other children and I couldn't just sit and hold my screaming baby all day. So, I did skin to skin baby wearing. So I just basically had like my bra on and that was only just to hold the breast milk pads on because I was breastfeeding. But skin to skin baby wearing, so I wouldn't leak all over the place. But skin to skin baby wearing, which actually was helpful, soothing him, and I think also that pressure on his tummy was helpful. So, and then I had hands free to take care of my other children. So,
I recommend earplugs when it gets desperate too.
Yes, you know what? My sister-in-law did that. They used earplugs, and you know what? Yep. You do what you got to do to get through the day, right?
That's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Z, for chatting with us today about ways to spot colic in your baby. And for our Newbies Club members, our conversation will continue after the end of the show, as Dr. Z will talk about developmental milestones which are associated with increased crying and how you can soothe your baby. For more information about the Newbies Club, please visit our website at newmommymedia.com.
All right, so it is time for a funny baby oops. And I love this because this is your opportunity, the listeners of the show, it's your opportunity to be heard and to share your funny stories of caring for your baby during this first year. So it could be funny things that you did as a parent or your spouse did, significant other, or it could be something funny your baby did. So this one comes from Jenny, and it's funny because Kristen, you were talking about leaking through your breast pads. And so this is a leaky breast pad story.
Oh, how perfect.
Yes, exactly. So Jenny says, we forgot breast pads at home and Liam had not cried at all when I was in the room yet. So Liam is her son. We were getting him loaded into the car when he decided he did not like his car seat. By the time our 35-mile, which took almost 2 hours due to ice on the roads, drive, was completed, I had leaked so badly, Brad had to have the seat cleaned. It was soaked through and through. My clothing, which was a light colored shirt, was permanently stained, and my jeans made crunching sounds when I climbed out of the car. That was by far the most embarrassing thing ever, as of course someone was waiting for us at home and saw me like that. So there you go. Poor Jenny. Poor Jenny for getting her breast pads. I don't know. When I was that full, I mean, I'm still nursing my twins, but I never really get super full. I hardly ever leak. And so I know that stage that she's talking about. And, I kept a few extra ones in diaper bags and purses and any place that I could, probably stuffed in my car console, that middle console in your car, anything I could, because it was kind of crazy.
I really like the cloth breast pads. Those actually were really helpful for me because I did not have so much of a explosive shower head coming out of my breast, but it was enough that, I didn't want to be walking around with wet shirts all the time, which I also had done. It's interesting when you go shopping somewhere and people keep staring at your breasts and you're like, why? And then you go to your car and you see that you're just completely soaked, like a wet t-shirt contest.
No.
You're like, I get it. So anyway, I like the reusables. Plus, it was eco-friendly. So.
Yes, I had those too. And I also felt that they conform to my body a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sometimes the other ones are a little too stiff.
Yeah.
And they're
kind of itchy sometimes.
Itchy. And they make you have those Madonna pointy boobs sometimes that I'm not a real big fan.
Who would want those?
I don't know. Oh, God.
All right.
So anyway, so Jenny, thanks so much for sending in this question. If you guys have a funny baby oops you want to share with us, we would love to hear it, and we'd love to chat about it on the show and just have a good time. So you can go to our website at newmommymedia.com, and you can send us an email through the website, or you can even send a voicemail through the website, which is kind of cool because you don't even have to pick up your phone. Just click that gray little button on the side of all the New Mommy Media pages. It says send voicemail, and you can use your microphone and your computer and send it that way.
That wraps up our show for today. We appreciate you listening to Newbies. Don't forget to check out our sister show, Preggie Pals, for expecting parents, Parent Savers for moms and dads with toddlers, the Boob Group for moms who provide breast milk for their babies, and Twin Talks for parents of multiples. Thank you for listening to Newbies, your go-to source for new moms and new babies.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
How would you like to have your own show on the New Mommy Media Network? We're expanding our lineup and looking for great content. If you're a business or organization interested in learning more about our co-branded podcasts, visit our website at newmommymedia.com.